It's your fault I'm a monster. It's your fault I'll never be on the cover of TV Guide.
I'm Sadie Guinness, and I'm going to tell you what the just happened in American Horror Story 1984. The season came to an end in a finale that gave us one of the series' most gruesome deaths ever, and also one of the biggest disappointments. I'm talking, obviously, about the fact that we did not see Team Margaret kill a bunch of 80s musicians. You can't set that up and not give us that. They wound up not even having a festival because Trevor put up a roadblock because he wanted to take down Margaret. Margaret did not let that stand and just went and shot Trevor right in his big penis. But the thing is, Margaret shot Trevor outside of the camp, and so Montana's freaking out.
Trevor, please get up.
Then all of a sudden, Brooke shows up, and even though Montana tried to kill her, Brooke is like, all right, even ghosts and murderers deserve love too, and helped Trevor over the line and into Camp Redwood so they could be ghosts together for eternity. This act of mercy completely changed Montana, and she's like, we need to stop the cycle of violence. And all the other ghosts got on board. They worked together to kill Bruce,
bitch and stash, but I can't have you die in this property.
Whose body they pushed over into public land. They used Montana as bait to kill Ramirez, but knowing that Satan would just keep resurrecting him, they've been taking turns for years just watching over him and killing him in more and more disgusting new ways. Brooke and Donna try and take down Margaret themselves, but Brooke gets shot in the process. The ghosts wind up having to step in. They surround Margaret, and then they give us something that will haunt my memories forever. They dismember Margaret, and they throw her limbs into a wood chipper, which spits out the parts on the other side of the property line, saying,
The brain can live on for about 30 seconds after decapitation.
if it was really just about stopping the cycle of violence, they would have just killed her in a way that would have secured her not being a ghost. After this, the ghosts just kind of live in their status quo, boring ass world for the next 30 years until Bobby Richter shows up at the camp all grown up, looking like a snack. Bobby goes to the camp looking for answers about his father, and he meets Montana and Trevor, who reveal that no one has seen Mr. Jingles for 30 years since he was dragged into the water. Montana and Trevor seem to think that Richter is in some sort of bad place. What they don't know is he actually found peace with his baby brother Bobby and his mother Lavinia.
I'm not leaving. Not until I find him.
And Montana and Trevor are like, no, you need to leave. Ramirez still is set on killing you. And even though he's supposed to be under constant watch, Chet and Chef Birdie start getting it on while they're on guard duty, and Ramirez is popped back up from Satan and just goes after Bobby. There's a whole fight. Bobby gets stabbed, but the ghosts intervene and he gets away. Bobby makes it all the way to Red Meadows Asylum, where he meets Donna, who tells him the truth about Richter not being the real Mr. Jingles, Margaret being the killer, and how Donna is the final girl since Brooke died trying to kill Margaret. Or so she thought. Bobby thanks Donna for sending him money all of these years.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never sent you anything.
They realize someone else must have survived Camp Redwood as well. They follow the money all the way to Oregon, where they figure out, yes, Brooke did survive too. There are 2 final girls. Gray uses his medical school training to save Brooke's life, and then she runs away to Oregon, finally starts a new life, and gets a nice husband, gets a nice kids, and apparently makes some sort of deal with the devil because she looks exactly the same.
And having a dermatologist husband doesn't hurt either.
Emma Roberts playing a 50-year-old woman is truly the best gag of the season. Andy was watching, he's like, she didn't even try and do a gravelly voice. Donna is understandably pissed that her friend has been alive this whole time, but Brooke explains that she needed to make a clean break with her past, and that was the only way she knew how to move on. She also tells Bobby that she was sending him this money because she needed to believe that there was a hope for a future untainted by Camp Redwood's legacy.
I know it's hard to understand.
Bobby goes back to the camp where the ghost of Margaret pops up because, yeah, she died before her head made it across the property line. She goes to kill Bobby, and then Mr. Jingles is drawn out of his peaceful, idyllic little picnic to save his son's life. They have a beautiful, tender little hug, and then Margaret pops back up, and Lavinia has to come intervene. It is the weirdest, bloodiest family reunion I've ever seen, but it's also kind of sweet. Bobby gets to have a nice little moment with his father, his grandmother, and his uncle, little baby Bobby. This whole time I was waiting for Ramirez to pop up and slash his throat at the final second, but it was actually an extremely happy and wholesome ending, which I didn't really see coming going into this finale. But the way the season really played on ghost stories, and folklore, it actually did make a lot of sense. And it's one of the reasons that Ryan Murphy actually says this is one of his favorite endings to a season the show has ever done.
I feel of all the endings we've ever done to a season, to me is the most satisfying. I really love the landing that it sticks, and I love it sort of creates a new kind of American fable.
I've definitely seen a lot of complaints that this whole finale plotline felt extremely rushed and like kind of forced, and I get that if you're thinking of 1984 as an homage to one singular slasher movie. But if you think of the whole season as kind of playing off the idea of slasher franchises, it makes a ton of sense. The 1948 massacre, that's the origin story. That's like Jason's death in the first Friday the 13th, and the 1970 massacre is like the actual plot of Friday the 13th. It follows the Scream rules for horror. If you do bad things, like party, whatever, you're gonna die. Also, like in Friday the 13th, there's that big twist where the killer is not who we think it is. It's not Jingles, it's Margaret. It's not Jason, it's his mom, which is also clearly an homage in the 1948 massacre. The 1984 massacre is the sequel movie. It follows, once again, Scream sequel rules. There's gotta be a bigger body count and never ever assume the killer is dead. With the 1989 massacre, that's like the third movie, the one that closes out the original trilogy. The killer is now superhuman. The main character can die, and literally everything from your past is not only probably, but it is going to come back and haunt you. And so if you think about the 1984 finale as like the reboot for this horror franchise, it all kind of clicks into place. We get a new character coming in with ties to the originals, looking for answers to the past, and I do kind of wish that there was like that Scream 4 twist where like Bobby revealed to have some sort of dark side. It was kind of nice to actually get like a happy ending to a season for basically everyone except for all of the ghosts trapped in Camp Redwood. The biggest question after the 1984 finale, though, is what the implications are for the American Horror Story shared universe. 1984 revealed that Richard Ramirez was trapped in Camp Redwood from 1989 at least through 2019, just being killed again and again by the other ghosts. However, we saw Richard Ramirez appear at Hotel's Devil Night,
Richard Ramirez, Night Stalker,
where it was discussed about how he died in his prison cell in 2013, which is how the real Night Stalker died. Obviously, Richard Ramirez can't be in two places at one time, so fans are trying to figure out how to work through this continuity error. That has led to one of the crazier American Horror Story theories of recent times, which is that there is not one shared universe, there are actually two. The Murder House universe, which includes Murder House, Coven, Hotel, and Apocalypse, and the Asylum universe, which includes Asylum, Freak Show, Roanoke, Cult, and 1984. But there are actually like more continuity errors with this shared universe theory than there are with the two Richard Ramirez's. For one, Piggy Man is in Murder House and Roanoke also featured the original Supreme, tying it to Coven. If you really do need some sort of answer as to like how this all fits together into one shared universe, I think the most believable option is probably the simplest, which is that when Mallory went back in time in Apocalypse, it created ripple effects that could explain some of these little continuity errors. Perhaps when Ramirez went to Devil's Night, that was in the timeline before Mallory went back to try and rescue Anastasia. And then maybe Ramirez getting stuck in Camp Redwood happens in the timeline after Mallory went back to 1918. And speaking of debunking crazy American Horror Story theories, if for some reason you still are wondering if Bobby Richter is another Antichrist because his father had been like dead and then brought back, Ryan Murphy says you can put that to rest.
No, that's not true. I like to debunk when I can. I thought that was interesting, but no, that's not true.
But now that 1984 is behind us, it's time to start looking towards season 10. Ryan Murphy told us that there was going to be a big clue to season 10's theme in episode 8 of 1984. Although there's no way of knowing exactly what that clue was, here are a few of my theories. When Stacy, the journalist, mentioned Paris, if we're gonna go real down the rabbit hole, maybe that was indicating next season will be a play on the movie Paris, Texas. The movie basically is about a man who comes out of a fugue state and then teams up with his son to go hunt down his missing wife. Love the idea of a kind of Western road trip kind of horror. Is the clue a stretch? Yes. Is that a fun idea for an American Horror Story season? Yes. Stacy also lists a bunch of things like Bigfoot at one point. What if this season was all about cryptids? Crazy monsters from lore. Maybe it's Blair Witch style and looking for some sort of monster in the woods, and they aren't sure if it's real or not, and we aren't sure if it's real or not. I'd watch that. Did you watch that, Aaron? No. Personally, I am hoping that Bruce's rantings about Mary Kay in episode 8 were the clue, because how perfect would it be to see a season that's like a fucking murderous, horrific take on a multi-level marketing scheme?
You could change.
Give me sinister pyramid scheme. I want creepy housewives. I want, that cult vibe. I don't know, maybe brainwashing Stepford wives. Come on, you'd watch that, right?
Maybe.
Oh my god, you're such a hater. Or will season 10 finally give us the alien season? Aliens have not reappeared in American Horror Story since Asylum, and fans have been calling for them to come back ever since. Some people are even thinking that Brooke saying she woke up in this white room, and the fact that we didn't see the paramedics get her after she was shot indicates that it was actually the aliens who saved her. I think it'd be fascinating if they did an Area 51 season that was more about the conspiracies surrounding aliens, with two groups of people, one trying to find out the truth, the other group trying to... I'm describing the X-Files. However, the American Horror Story cast is actually pretty split on the idea of whether or not they want an alien season.
Of course. I love that. That'd be interesting. Because there's no parameters and there's no rules, and so you can make up whatever you want.
There's so much to explore there. It'd be kind of cool to do something with extraterrestrials.
That might not be my jam. Unless I could play the alien.
Alien? In space? I don't know about that.
Ryan Murphy said in December 2018 that the Coven witches will come back in a future season and that he has something really fun planned for them. He did just bring them back in Apocalypse, but there's no reason that they can't just come back again in season 10. And when we spoke to the stars, they all seemed very eager to reprise their Coven roles as soon as Ryan Murphy asked.
Anytime I could play Cordelia, I would love to. I really loved playing her.
Sure, if that was called for. I've done it before.
I am always open to returning to my first love. Yes.
One character that I would love to get into the history of is Nan, because there's a lot of Nan's history that you don't see in Coven.
As for who will return in season 10, everyone we have spoken to said they would love to come back, and while Evan Peters has said never say never about returning to American Horror Story, Sarah Paulson not only really wants to return, but she's hoping that Peters will return alongside her.
I would like to do something with Evan. I miss Evan and I miss acting with Evan, so I'd love to have that experience again. So anything he's in, if he'll come back, I'm back.
Will season 10 be American Horror Story's last? Rumors have been swirling ever since Ryan Murphy signed that mega deal with Netflix. But he has also said that this show can run basically indefinitely, and he's down to continue it if FX is. However, American Horror Story hasn't been renewed for a season 11 yet, and Ryan Murphy, it seems is kind of hedging his bets. He said they are in talks about continuing the show beyond season 10, but he's also asked some fan favorite actors from early Horror Story to come back just in case season 10 does wind up being its last. Who are you hoping will return for American Horror Story season 10, and do you think it should be the show's last? Let us know in the comments below, and please watch more of our What the F videos.